What happens when tragedy strikes in a place built on comfort, tourism, and alpine calm? In Crans, Montana, a devastating fire shattered the illusion of safety in one of Switzerland's most polished mountain resorts. What began as a local emergency quickly exposed deeper questions about preparedness, response time, building standards, and institutional accountability. Lives were disrupted in minutes, homes were reduced to ash, and once again, the public was left with fragments, press releases, instead of full answers. At the minus 41 times, we go beyond the headlines. We examine how such disasters unfold, what warning signs may have been missed, and why critical information often emerges slowly, if at all. We look at emergency protocols, coordination between authorities, and the silent gaps that appear after the cameras leave. This is not about sensationalism, it's about responsibility, it's about transparency. Because every tragedy leaves behind more than debris, it leaves unanswered questions. And when systems fail under pressure, citizens deserve clarity. This is the minus 41 times.
It is Saturday, February 21st, 2026. We are sitting here roughly 50 days past the exact moment the Constellation Bar turned from a New Year's celebration into a complete catastrophe.
50 days. In the grand scheme of a normal news cycle, 50 days usually feels like an absolute eternity. People move on, the headlines change, the scrolling ticker at the bottom of the screen just, well, it finds a new crisis.
Right, the media machine needs to be fed.
Exactly. But sitting here, looking at this massive stack of documents you've brought to the table today, the witness statements, the legal briefs, the leaked reports from the municipality, it really feels like we are barely scratching the surface of what actually happened. It feels like the fog isn't lifting for you and me. It's actually getting thicker.
And that's exactly why we're conducting this forensic audit today, because 50 days is the dangerous zone in an investigation like this. It's the period where the initial shock wears off, the international cameras pack up and go home, and the narrative starts to get managed.
Managed by the people who have the most to lose.
Precisely. Our mission here in this deep dive is to stop that drift. We need to look at the anatomy of this disaster, not as a sad accident or some unavoidable twist of fate, but as a potential systemic failure. We are here to strip away the rumors and look exclusively at the hard documents.
And when you lay it all out, like we have on the table here, 5 massive implicit questions just scream at you from the pages. It's not just a matter of how the fire started, it's so much bigger than a single spark.
Right. It's about preparedness. Was the rescue system actually capable of handling a mass casualty event in a high-end resort town? It's about response time. Did help get there fast enough, or were they blocked by structural impediments or human error?
Accountability is the big one for me. Who is actually holding the bag here? Is it the owners, the inspectors who sign the safety forms, or the politicians shaking hands at the local wine festivals? Because right now, reading these press releases, it feels like a high-stakes game of hot potato with responsibility.
Yeah, nobody wants to be the one holding it when the music stops. And don't forget, building safety. How does a polished resort like Crans, Montana, a place designed for billionaires and wealthy tourists, a place that literally sells safety and exclusivity, allow a fire trap to operate on its main strip?
Which brings us to institutional transparency, or the lack of it. Why does it feel like the authorities have gone into a bunker?
Because they have.
Right. Those are the pillars we are tackling. So let's get into it. We need to start where the illusion of safety officially ended. We need to walk through the timeline. Let's open section 1, the anatomy of a collapse.
Let's set the scene for the listener. It's New Year's Eve, La Constellation. Now, if you haven't been there or seen the brochures, you have to understand the vibe of this place. This isn't a dive bar tucked away in an alley. This is high-end.
This is Crans, Montana.
It's glitz. It's glamour. People are paying top franc just to get through the door.
I've seen the descriptions of the newly recovered video footage from that night, and it's haunting to watch because it looks like the best night of your life right up until the moment it isn't. It looks like the kind of party you wait all year to attend.
It's totally euphoric. The footage shows a packed house. The music is thumping. People are dancing, hugging, toasting with champagne. It's the very definition of a celebration. And this atmosphere is absolutely crucial to understand because of what happens next. It explains the crowd's initial reaction.
Right. The sparklers. According to the documents, this seems to be the catalyst.
The pyrotechnics, yes. In the video, you see staff light these large sparklers.
Yeah.
It's a very common club trope. Put a massive sparkler on a bottle of expensive vodka, make a scene, bring it to the VIP table. But almost immediately, the sparks make direct contact with the ceiling decoration.
And this brings us to a psychological concept that I found fascinating and frankly terrifying in the post-event behavioral reports. They call it normalcy bias. Can you break that down for the audience? Because the reaction of the crowd in those initial seconds is baffling if you don't understand this defense mechanism.
Yeah, it's a survival mechanism that completely backfires in modern artificial settings. Your brain is essentially a prediction machine. It uses your past experiences to predict the next few seconds of your life.
So in a nightclub, on New Year's Eve, your brain predicts fun.
Exactly. It predicts loud noises, bright lights, special effects, people cheering. It most certainly does not predict a deadly inferno.
So when actual fire appears on the ceiling,
Your brain rejects the idea of danger because it doesn't fit the established pattern of a party. The footage literally shows people laughing at the flames. Some look a bit confused, sure, but they aren't screaming, they aren't running. A lot of people pull out their phones to film it.
they think it's part of the show.
They think it's a controlled tune, a special effect designed to wow them at midnight.
That is absolutely terrifying, because while their brains are processing a cool light show, the physics of the room is processing fuel.
And the physics of combustion does not care about your psychology. The material on that ceiling was acoustic foam. Now, for the listener, we aren't talking about fire-resistant drywall or treated wood. We are talking about exposed, polyurethane-based foam.
Which, if I'm reading these forensic chemistry reports correctly, is basically solid gasoline.
That is the most accurate way to describe it. When polyurethane foam ignites, two things happen instantly. One, it burns with an exponential acceleration. It doesn't smolder. It roars. It consumes the oxygen in the room at a rate that is genuinely hard to comprehend.
And the second thing,
Two, it melts and drips. It turns into a liquid fire that literally rains down on the crowd.
so the transition from sparkler show to unsurvivable inferno isn't measured in minutes, it's seconds.
Single-digit seconds. And that creates the chemical transition from a party to a highly toxic environment. The smoke from burning polyurethane foam is poisonous immediately. One breath can incapacitate you. And that's the exact moment the normalcy bias breaks.
The breaking point, the exact moment the illusion shatters for everyone in that room.
The panic. You can see it in the final frames of the footage. The realization washes over hundreds of people all at once. This is not a drill. Social cohesion, the politeness, the party vibe, the whole idea of holding the door for each other, it evaporates.
It shifts instantly to raw individual survival instinct.
And looking at the architectural floor plans and comparing them with those survivor testimonies, this is where the fatal bottleneck happens.
The main stairs.
Yes, everyone surges toward the way they came in. It's human nature. In a blind panic, you don't look for new, unfamiliar exits. You go to the one you already know. It creates a massive crush. It creates a solid wall of humanity trying to push through a severely limited space.
But here's the detail that really stuck with me from the witness testimonies we reviewed. In all that chaos, amidst the fire and the crushing at the stairs, there is something glaringly missing. Something that should have been there by law.
The response.
Yeah.
The immediate intervention by the staff.
No fire extinguishers were used.
None. Zero. In the footage we've analyzed, and in every single witness account we have access to, there is no evidence of a staff member grabbing an extinguisher. There is zero evidence of a manager or a bouncer taking charge, standing on a chair and shouting directions to the emergency exits. It was a complete leadership vacuum.
That just chills you to the bone. You're in this high-end place, paying top franc for drinks, assuming there's a safety net because of the price tag, and the moment things go wrong, you are completely on your own. There is no protocol. There is no plan.
And that lack of options, that desperate bottleneck at the stairs, wasn't just a matter of bad luck. This leads us directly into the darkest part of this entire investigation. Section 2, structural safety, or as we're calling it based on the evidence, the fire trap hypothesis.
This is where we move from mere negligence, like not having an extinguisher handy, to something that feels almost criminal. We have to talk about the locked doors.
This is the allegation that changes the entire complexion of the case. It moves it from a tragedy to a potential homicide investigation. It comes from a bouncer, identified in the documents as Predrag Jankovic. He has given testimony to the authorities that is absolutely explosive.
What did he say? Walk us through his exact version of events from that night.
He claims that on the night of the fire, amidst the noise and the massive crowd, he heard Jessica Moretti, the co-owner of the club, give a very specific, explicit order to the security staff.
And that order was?
Close all doors, leave only the main entrance open.
Stop. Just let that sink in for a second. Close all doors. In a crowded basement-level club on New Year's Eve. Why? What possible reason could there be to seal a building packed with hundreds of people?
The alleged motive, according to Predrag and corroborated by typical nightclub operations, is profit protection. They wanted to prevent the dash and dine.
The dash and dine.
Yes. They were terrified that in the chaos of a busy night, or if a fight broke out, people might slip out the side emergency exits without paying their bar tabs.
So to save a few hundred francs on unpaid gin and tonics, they effectively sealed the building. They prioritized the cash register over the legally mandated exit routes.
That is the core allegation. And if it's proven true in court, it's not just negligence, it's depraved indifference to human life. Because the consequences were fatal. It wasn't a theoretical risk. The service door on the ground floor was confirmed to be locked.
We know this for a fact because of Cian.
C&P.
Yes, the waitress. Her story is the absolute heartbeat of this tragedy. It anchors the forensic horror in a devastating human reality. Multiple witness reports state she wasn't running for herself when the fire started. She wasn't pushing people out of the way to save her own skin.
She was trying to lead a group of panicked guests to an emergency exit on the ground floor.
She was doing her job. She was trying to be the hero. She was taking the responsibility that the owners apparently abdicated. She led them to a door she fully believed was an escape route. A door that legally should have been an escape route.
And she found it locked. Or barricaded. We don't know the exact physical mechanism yet, but we know for a fact they couldn't get it open. She perished right there, trapped against that door, along with the guests she was trying to save.
It's heartbreaking. It makes you incredibly angry reading these files. But it wasn't just the doors, was it? It was the building itself that betrayed them. We talked about the polyurethane foam earlier. Why was that foam even there in the first place? Why surround hundreds of people with kindling?
This is where the profit over safety theme really solidifies into a documented pattern. We have sworn testimony from a furniture and material supplier who worked directly with the club during its renovation. He claims he explicitly offered Jacques Moretti, the other co-owner, safe, certified, fire-retardant padding and foam.
So the safe option was on the table. It wasn't that safe materials were unavailable or too hard to find.
It was right there in the catalog, and Jacques allegedly refused it, specifically because the safe material costs 15% more than the highly flammable cheat stuff.
15%. That is the margin they put on human life. That is the specific discount they applied to the safety of their patrons.
Apparently so. But the supplier's testimony gets even worse. He warned them. He told investigators that he explicitly said to them, "You need this for the municipal safety certificates. You cannot pass a fire inspection with the cheap stuff."
And do you know what Mrs. Moretti allegedly replied to that warning?
I do. She allegedly stated that they didn't need to worry about the certificates because they had a relative.
Oh, relative.
A relative in a high position at the Crans-Montana municipality who would ensure the operating permit was granted regardless of the materials they used.
Okay, so now we are moving from greedy business owners to municipal corruption. This is textbook nepotism. This is the old boys club at its absolute worst.
It heavily suggests a network where safety codes are strict rules for other people, but mere suggestions if you have the right connections. It suggests that the regulations designed to keep citizens safe were treated as optional inconveniences by the elite.
But wait, surely there are mandatory inspections? You can't just open a massive venue in a tourist hub and not have the fire chief physically walk through the premises. Even with a relative pulling strings, someone has to sign a legal document.
There was an inspection. We have the file right here. Happened in 2018. The fire chief, David Vocat, has been officially questioned about this specific visit.
And the polyurethane foam was there in 2018.
It was fully visible. It wasn't hidden behind a false wall. It was the primary decor. It was staring the inspection team right in the face.
So why didn't he red flag it? Why didn't he shut the renovation down then and there?
Vocat's defense is, well, it's purely jurisdictional. He claims his specific role during that 2018 inspection was checking external access only.
External access.
Yes. Are the fire hydrants on the street working? Can the massive ladder truck physically fit into the driveway? He argues under oath that checking interior building materials wasn't his jurisdiction.
So literally, not my job.
Exactly. Not my job.
But hold on a second. You're the fire chief of the entire municipality. You walk into a confined room, you look up and see a ceiling made of solid gasoline, and you say, "Not my department." That requires a level of bureaucratic compartmentalization that is, frankly, hard to fathom.
It's the ultimate bureaucratic defense mechanism. And for anyone analyzing these transcripts, notice the drastic shift in his tone. Immediately after the fire, when speaking to the press on camera, Vocat was highly emotional. He was saying things like, "We wanted to help, it's a terrible tragedy, our hearts are broken." He was playing the human angle.
But no.
Now, under hostile interrogation, the emotion's completely gone. It's purely legalistic. I checked the hydrants. The interior foam is not my problem.
It feels like everyone involved is scrambling for a lifeboat. It wasn't me, it was him. It wasn't me, it was outside my jurisdiction. Which brings us to the people who are actually supposed to be managing this chaos and answering to the public. Let's move to Section 3. Emergency response and communication gaps.
Or, as I've titled this section in my notes, the silence.
The municipality of Crans, Montana, they are the elected officials. They are the ones who should be stepping up, holding press conferences, and taking accountability, right?
Instead, they have essentially gone dark. Mayor Nicholas Farreau and his entire administration are communicating almost exclusively via highly sterilized press releases. There are no public town halls, no unscripted interviews where journalists can actually ask the hard follow-up questions. It's a complete wall of silence.
But walls always have cracks, and documents always leak if you wait long enough. We have this 2023 audit. This is a crucial piece of the puzzle.
Highly crucial. We have verified reports of an internal 2023 municipal audit. This was conducted 3 full years before the fire ever happened. This document apparently showed that the municipality knew, as an absolute fact, that the local fire police were severely underfunded and understaffed.
So they knew the safety net had massive holes in it. They knew they weren't ready for a large-scale emergency.
They knew. The data was sitting right on their desks. And the report goes even further. It explicitly mentions internal concerns about nepotism. It states that municipal hiring practices often prioritize political connections over actual professional competence.
Which circles right back to the relative comment from Mrs. Moretti. It's starting to look like a very clear pattern, isn't it? Connections over competence. Who you know matters significantly more than what you know or what the safety regulations say.
It creates an entire administrative context where public safety is naturally secondary to social standing. And if you want absolute proof that the local authorities are currently in a state of blind panic, look at the reaction of the neighboring municipality, Savièse.
Oh, the letters. This part of the file is almost dark comedy if the stakes weren't so incredibly high.
Yes. In the immediate aftermath of the Crans, Montana fire, Savièse sent out urgent letters to all their local businesses demanding immediate self-checks for fire safety.
Please check yourself because we frankly can't.
Exactly. It reads as a pure panic reaction. It's a massive liability shift. These local governments are terrified. They're trying to quickly push the legal burden onto the business owners after the fact because they know their own municipal inspection regimes might not hold up to external scrutiny. They're desperately covering their own backsides.
And that external scrutiny is definitely coming. This isn't just a quiet, contained Swiss problem anymore. The Italians are involved now.
This is a major diplomatic pressure point that the local authorities did not anticipate. A significant portion of the victims in La Constellation were Italian nationals. And because of that, the Rome prosecutor has officially entered the chat, so to speak.
And this isn't just any regular prosecutor they sent over the border. This isn't some low-level bureaucratic functionary.
No, they sent an anti-mafia expert prosecutor to collaborate with the Swiss authorities.
That sends a very specific message.
It sends a massive, undeniable message. When Rome sends an anti-mafia prosecutor to look into a nightclub fire, they are explicitly implying that they are looking for organized negligence, maybe even criminal syndicates or deep-rooted corruption structures.
They aren't just looking for oops, we forgot the fire extinguishers.
Right. They are looking for a syndicate. They are treating this as organized crime.
Expect massive friction there.
Oh, absolutely guaranteed. The aggressive, fast-moving, highly suspicious Italian approach clashing directly with the slower, consensus-based, traditionally insular Valaisian judicial process. It's going to be a monumental collision of legal cultures.
Speaking of the Valaisian judicial process, we need to talk about the person leading the charge on the Swiss side. Let's open Section 4. Unanswered questions and institutional failures. The Pillout file.
Beatrice Pillout, the general prosecutor of Valais. She is currently facing a full-blown legal revolt. 15 separate lawyers representing the families of the victims have banded together to publicly and legally criticize her handling of this case.
And reading their brief, it's not just general, vague criticism. It's not just we don't like her tone or she's moving too slowly. They have a documented laundry list of procedural errors that sound, frankly, they sound completely amateur.
Amateur is a very kind word for what's in this file. Let's run through the specific allegations. First, the data breach.
The USB stick. Tell me about this because my jaw dropped when I read this part.
The prosecution team reportedly received a raw USB stick containing all 144 emergency phone calls from that entire night. This includes the desperate calls from the fire, yes, but it also includes every single other emergency call made in the region.
So the defense lawyers for the bar owners got access to private medical calls about heart attacks in other towns.
Yes. Broken legs, domestic violence issues, psychiatric emergencies, anything that happened in the canton that night. Instead of properly sorting them and isolating only the calls strictly relevant to the fire, the prosecutor's office just dumped the raw, unedited data file directly into the shared case evidence file.
That is a massive violation of medical privacy for citizens who had absolutely nothing to do with the fire. It shows a complete lack of care. It's incredibly sloppy.
Sloppy and potentially actionable. It suggests they aren't treating the evidence with the clinical precision that a 41-victim homicide case demands.
What else is on the lawyer's list?
The collusion risk. The Morettis, the owners of La Consolation, were left completely free for 9 full days after the fire, before being formally detained by the authorities.
9 days. That's a very long time in a crisis.
In a criminal investigation of this magnitude, 9 days is an eternity. You can do a lot of damage in 9 days.
Wow.
You can coordinate your stories with your staff. You can move or hide financial assets.
You can scrub your digital footprint?
Exactly. And that is exactly what the evidence shows happened. In those 9 crucial days, the official Instagram and Facebook accounts associated with the club were completely deleted.
Which is textbook evidence destruction.
Potentially, yes. Those accounts could have shown a historical pattern of severe overcrowding. They could have shown previous reckless use of sparklers near the ceiling, establishing a clear, documented pattern of negligence, proving that they do this every weekend.
But now
Now that data is gone, it's incredibly difficult to recover.
And it wasn't just social media that was lost, right? The video data from the club's security system.
This is the third, and perhaps most egregious point. The physical surveillance footage from the club's own cameras. The prosecutor's office simply didn't request the full, unedited tapes within the standard 7-day automatic deletion window.
Wait, they just let the clock run out. They knew the system would auto-delete and they just didn't send the formal request in time.
That is what the victim lawyers are alleging. The footage from before midnight, which would show the initial crowd size, and the footage from after 6 a.m., which could establish timelines of who exactly entered and left during the aftermath, is likely lost forever because of a missed paperwork deadline.
That is, incompetence feels like a very polite word to use here. When you stack the USB stick, the 9 days of freedom, and the missed video deadline together, it starts to feel like active sabotage of the investigation.
And then there's the issue of the bail. Jacques Moretti was released on 200,000 Swiss francs bail. The victim lawyers claim the source of this massive amount of cash was never properly checked against the standard Money Laundering Act protocols.
They just took a bag of cash and opened the jail cell door.
Effectively, yes. Which brings us to the final overarching point of the lawyer's complaint, the conflict of interest. Is Prosecutor Paloud actually impartial? Can she be impartial in this specific environment?
This is the wine brotherhood thing.
The Ordre de la Chaîne.
Yeah.
Yes. Prosecutor Paloud is a prominent member. Mayor Nicolas Ferraud is a member. It's an exclusive wine brotherhood, essentially a high society social club for the Valais elite.
It sounds like a very small, very tight-knit club where everyone knows everyone else. A place where major regional business is quietly done over a glass of expensive Fendon.
That is the very definition of the Valais entente. It's the colloquial term for this exact kind of networking. But the specific allegation here is that Prosecutor Paloud's husband, who works deeply in the regional wine business, has documented friendly relations with Jacques Moretti, the accused.
Let me make sure I'm following this web. So you have the lead prosecutor, the mayor of the town, and the accused club owner, all basically swimming in the exact same small social pond, all potentially toasting each other at the exact same exclusive events.
It raises the most fundamental question of a fair trial. Can you aggressively prosecute your own friends? Can you impartially investigate your brothers in the order? Can justice truly be blind when everyone knows everyone's family and business ties?
It paints a very bleak picture for the victims' families hoping for an unbiased trial. Meanwhile, while the prosecution fumbles the ball, the Morettis are actively building their legal defense. And looking at these preliminary statements, it's ugly.
It's a defense strategy that seems to rely entirely on deflecting blame onto the victims and the lower-level staff. Most disgustingly, they've formally attempted to blame Cian, the deceased waitress.
Blaming the young woman who died trying to save their paying customers, that takes a truly special kind of audacity.
It's the move of a desperate defense team. They're also blaming a mysterious, unnamed employee with ice buckets for supposedly blocking the emergency doors by accident. They are basically throwing everything at the wall to see what alternative narrative might stick with a judge.
And they aren't doing it alone. They have witnesses backing them up.
Yes, a man named Jean-Marc. He refers to himself in the documents as the Moretti's adopted son. He's actively corroborating their story to the police. He is backing up the "it wasn't us, it was an accident" narrative. But you have to remember the first bouncer we talked about, pre-drag.
The whistleblower, the guy who broke ranks and talked about the locked doors?
Exactly. Pre-drag's sworn testimony directly contradicts Jean-Marc's account. Pre-drag places Jean-Marc at the actual scene, specifically receiving the orders from the owners to lock those doors.
So it's a complete tangle of lies versus testimony. One side saying we are innocent victims of a tragic accident, the other side saying you literally gave the order to trap people inside.
And amidst all this finger-pointing, let's not forget the flight risk aspect. We have unanimous, unshakable testimony from multiple Italian survivors that states Jessica Moretti fled the scene entirely while her guests were still trapped inside burning.
She just ran.
She ran. She saved herself.
Wow.
While her paying customers burned in the basement.
God. That image of the owner abandoning ship while the passengers are locked in the hold, it just sticks with you. So if we step back from the granular details and summarize this entire deep dive, we actually have a very clear, disturbing picture of what we don't know. Let's move to the summary. What the public still doesn't know.
Right. Stripping away the noise, we have 3 gaping holes in the truth that the authorities have yet to fill.
Hit me with them. Let's list them out clearly for the listener.
First, we have missing accountability. Who, specifically by name in the municipality, authorized the opening of Low Constellation despite the blatant lack of fire safety certificates? Who physically signed that piece of paper?
We need a name. We absolutely need to know who the alleged relative is. Who is the person in the government pulling the strings to protect these owners?
Second, we have missing evidence. What exactly was on those deleted social media accounts? What was in that lost, auto-deleted video footage? Was there a smoking gun piece of evidence that the prosecution simply allowed to vanish into the ether?
It's a question that might never be answered legally, which is maddening. And the third hole.
The structural void. Why was the damning 2023 report on the inadequate fire police completely ignored by Mayor Farrow's administration? And perhaps most frighteningly for anyone living in or visiting the region, how many other venues in Valais are currently operating under this exact same blind eye inspection standard?
That is the scary thought. This tragedy might not be a one-off anomaly. It might be the standard operating procedure for the whole resort. La Constellation might just be the one building that got unlucky with the sparkler, while a dozen others are just sitting there, fully packed, waiting for a spark.
That is the definition of a systemic risk. That is what keeps safety inspectors and investigative journalists awake at night. The normalization of deviance.
So we reached the end of our timeline today. We reached the outro. Looking at everything we've laid out, this wasn't an accident, was it?
No. An accident is an unforeseen, unavoidable event. An asteroid hitting the Earth is an accident. A sudden, massive earthquake is an accident. This fire was a systemic collapse. It was fueled heavily by documented negligence. It was fueled by pure profit-seeking, the physical locking of doors just to save a few bucks on unpaid drink tabs.
And it was completely enabled by administrative incompetence and elite nepotism.
Exactly. The system worked exactly as it was designed to work for the wealthy, right up until the exact second it killed 41 people.
41 lives extinguished. That's the minus 41 reality we are dealing with. That's the permanent hole left in these families' lives.
And the listener needs to watch this next phase of the legal proceedings very closely. You cannot look at this just as a localized tragedy anymore. You have to look at it as a stress test. Can the Swiss judicial system actually prosecute its own elite? Or will the Valais Entente simply close ranks? Will the Brotherhood protect its own and sweep the core rot under the rug?
I want to leave you, the listener, with this final thought. It's something that has been stuck in my head on a loop since I first read the fire chief's interrogation transcript. It's a fundamental question that haunts every single page of this entire case file.
Go ahead.
If a sworn fire chief can walk past a ceiling made of solid gasoline and confidently say to an investigator, "Not my job," and if a lead prosecutor can casually let prime suspects scrub their digital history for 9 days while roaming free, are we just looking at a failed rescue operation on a bad night? Or are we looking at a failed state at the local level?
This is the ultimate question they have to answer.
This has been the deep dive into the anatomy of the Crans-Montana Inferno. We will be watching the courts, and we will be reading the documents they don't want us to read. Stay safe out there and always check the exits.